Animism nahi. Animatism was the most primitive form of religion which evolved to monotheism and then to polytheism. पुराणों में एक बहुत अच्छी प्रैक्टिस है. So there is a head priest which will be appointed or which is there only for 3 years, and the head priest will have a dream that who will be his successor. Approaches to study religion. So this is one of the most favorite areas of UPSC. Every alternate years or 2 years, UPSC is asking question from this domain. That is, what are the major approaches to study religion, either as a 20 marker or then maybe some specific approach as a 10 marker question has been asked. So last year also there was a question that asked about distinguish between various anthropological and psychological approaches to study religion. I think 15 or 20 marker question tha ye. Now here we will be using multiple theories or multiple anthropological perspectives to understand religion. So the first one being evolutionist perspective, then psychological perspective, functionist perspective, then feminist, Marxist, postmodernist, and one more, that is symbolic. We have read multiple of them. It's just a repeat of whatever we have read in the theories. Evolutionist, psychological, functionist, symbolic, feminist, Marxist, and postmodernist. So let's see each one of them one by one. So the first one, that is evolutionist perspective. It basically focuses upon the origin of religion and stages as it evolves. What was the initial stage or initial form of religion as it actually originated, and what was the stages as it evolved from one stage to another? Okay, that is what evolutionism talks about. So the first one we already know, Tyler. So who suggested that animism was the most primitive form of religion which evolved to polytheism and which evolved to monotheism. We have discussed this multiple times, how this belief actually originated, so we are not discussing it again. Now there is a scholar who is a student of Tyler. The name of the scholar is R. Merritt. Now he was also a British anthropologist, and he actually did a study in Melanesia, and he suggested that animism nahi, animatism was the most primitive form of religion which evolved to monotheism and then to polytheism. This is how the sequence actually came. Rather than monotheism coming after polytheism, monotheism was the original form of religion after animatism. So first we need to understand what is animatism. Now animatism means belief in some kind of an impersonal force. Okay, some kind of power that is present in everyone. Animism में क्या होता है कि everybody is having a unique soul. Means you have a unique soul, this podium has a unique soul, this pen also has a unique soul, I have also a unique soul. But animatism means presence of some kind of impersonal force in everyone. But this force will be present in different degree in everyone. Okay, and the one who has more of this force will be superior. or will be having a higher status in the society. Usually the chief, the headman, they are believed to have higher amount of this kind of force, that is animatism. You can understand it by a simple logic. It's just like money in your bank account. Everyone has it, but सबके पास अलग अलग अमाउंट होगा. So for example, I have less, you might have more. So in that case, that is how the हाँ ठीक है, इस पे बाद में डिस्कस कर सकते हैं. So in that case, what actually happens, the hierarchy in the society is decided. Say the one who has more has a greater hierarchy, but everyone has it, कम ज्यादा जो भी है, but अलग अलग अमाउंट में, अलग अलग क्वांटिटी में will be present, and that is how this force is there. Everyone will be having it, but in different degrees. Okay, and the one who has more of this force will be higher in the hierarchy of the society. Okay, and the presence of this force basically is responsible for success or failures. That means if somebody, say who is a chief or the headman, and he is fighting the battles, and he might be winning all the battles, तो उस केस में माना जाएगा कि that this person is having more anima, or that force is higher in him, and that is responsible for his success. Now if imagine the same person who was earlier believed to have the highest amount of anima, if that person starts losing the battle, so what will be the interpretation? One interpretation is that he has lost his animatic force. Okay, the animatic force might have left his body. Second is that the person in front of him, that is his opposition, might have a greater animatic force, इसलिए वो हार रहा है. Okay, so either way, it is suggested that कि it is responsible for the success. जैसे कि आपके पास अगर पैसा हो तो you can see पूजा खेड़कर. So everything is possible, even in UPSC also. So this is the basic idea, that this force will be there, and that force is present in variable degree in every individual. And the one who has more of it will be considered to be superior in the society. Now in Melanesia, R.R. Merritt studied it, and he says that this force is called as mana. And that's why this belief, he called it as Manaism. This kind of belief system is there in Indian tribes also. For example, the tribes of central India, like Oraon, Ho and all, they call it as Bonga or Bong. That means a kind of impersonal force present in everyone. And this Bong is responsible for everything that is happening around the society. Say for the rain, for the drought, for the flood, for the yield of the crops, for success or failure of anyone, this Bong is responsible for it. Okay. The head priest is supposed to have the highest amount of bong. Okay, and that's why he is the head priest. Oraon में एक बहुत अच्छी practice है. So there is a head priest which will be appointed, or which is there only for 3 years, and the head priest will have a dream that who will be his successor, and that in that dream he will then actually get a vision कि भाई ये मेरा successor होगा, and he will be, just after he just completes his 3 years, his successor will be appointed by the head priest. Okay, and ये bong की वजह से, it is said that कि the bong gives him that kind of vision, and he then will realize that this person will be the successor. तो उसको train किया जाता है. So this animatism, he says that कि this is when he studied Melanesian society, so he found that कि there cannot be any religion more primitive than this. And that's why he suggested that or there cannot be any society more primitive than this, and that's why he suggested that animatism would be the most primitive form of religion. This is how the religious belief would have actually originated. Now gradually this force is basically now worshipped as in a personified form, and that leads to the birth of मोनोथिज्म. यही जो फोर्स है उसको किसी personified form में आपने कुछ नाम दे दिया, and कुछ human form में worship करने लगे, and that is how the monotheism actually was created. This spirit or the force now has a shape and size or a face, and that is how the monotheism actually began. Now later on, as the people started to move towards agriculture and all, they started to believe in multiple forces responsible for multiple activities, like rain god, sun god, and so on and so forth, and which led to the birth of polytheism. So he countered Tyler in saying that monotheism is not the most evolved form of religion. Rather, monotheism originated. It's a transitory form of religion from where began polytheism. And the most primitive form of religion is animatism. Is it clear? Now, there's another scholar, Auguste Comte. He basically says that human psyche actually developed into three stages, or there are three stages of development of thought processes. One is theological stage. We have, I guess, discussed this. Theological stage. That means theo means religion, the God belief. So theological stage means that people used to believe that everything is done on earth based on God's will. Okay, that is the theological stage, and religion was the center of every kind of reason. Okay. Now, in the theological stage also, he believed that fetishism is the most primitive form of religion. Now, fetishism means that undue affection to a particular object makes one person believe that this object has some kind of magical power. Undue affection means more than what is required love to a particular object. Okay, so for example, there is a pen that you might be using, and coincidentally what happens that whenever you use this pen to write an exam, you score well, you qualify that exam. Now you start believing that कि this particular pen has some kind of magical power, जो भी exam लिखता हूँ उससे qualify हो जाता है. One of my student only, I just don't want to name him, he got top 100 rank, and he told me that there is a particular photograph of him, that whenever he uses that photograph for any kind of exam, he qualifies that exam. And initially that was the photograph that we had when he qualified the exam. That was the photograph on DAF. He asked us to remove that photograph. कि मतलब ये photograph, he just does not want that photograph to be revealed to everyone. He has some kind of belief, but he says that this particular photograph has some kind of magical power, because wherever I have used, I have always qualified this exam. You must also have some kind of lucky charms. Okay, some stone, some pendant, anything that you always keep it with you in the wallet. That object is called as a fetish object. Okay, that is undue affection, undue love with that particular object, and that you start believing that this object has some kind of a magical power that can actually help you out or actually bring you out of some problems. Okay, so कुछ lucky coins होते हैं, अक्सर जो जुआ खेलते हैं, जुआरी होते हैं, उनका कुछ lucky coin होता है. So they always keep it with them, and they will always keep the last bet with that lucky coin, and that is the biggest bet that they always make, and chances is that that's why it's the lucky coin that they always win it. Okay, now that is what is called as fetishism, and that is what's the most primitive form of religion as per Comte. He says that initially hunter gatherers would have some kind of lucky stones or lucky stone tools, जिससे जब वो hunt करने जाते होंगे तो there would have been a greater success. Okay, and gradually what they started to do, they started to polish these stone tools, and they used to keep it with them rather than using it for utility aspects. They will carry it as a lucky charm rather than using it for hunting per se. Okay, then this fetishism evolved to polytheism, and later to monotheism. The reason is same, that is, as we shifted from hunting gathering to agriculture, we started to believe in multiple forces, multiple gods, and that is why polytheism. And gradually, with the discovery of some kind of scientific knowledge, we started to believe in monotheism. Okay, then the second stage is metaphysical stage. Now, metaphysical stage is where there is a transition stage between science and religion. Okay, science has started to come up with the reasons, while there is still a lot of phenomena that is not explained by science. And here in this case, the rationality level is relatively higher than the theological stage. And what actually happens when asked about God, so people, in order to sound very much pro-science, science would say that they do not believe in God. but rather they believe in some kind of force which actually controls things around them. Okay. Now the reason being, people have started to question that if there is a God, if there is a benevolent entity, how that particular God is responsible for everything evil that is happening around them. So if there is a God, if God controls everything, so why a girl is being raped? Why somebody's family is getting murdered? Why theft is happening? So अगर भगवान सब कुछ control कर रहा है, why would God want innocent people to be persecuted? Why the bomb was dropped on certain societies? So in such cases, people still believe that there is some kind of supernatural force, but that is not necessarily God or benevolent. But there is something, okay, that controls phenomena around us. And currently we are surrounded by multiple metaphysical theories around us also. आज के time पे we also believe in some of them. One of them basically is like Soka Gakkai. They basically actually talk about some kind of energy. You must have heard about that dialogue of Om Shanti Om. कि किसी चीज को दिल से अगर आप चाहो तो पूरी कायनात शिद्दत से something like that. I hope you can recall that. That is a metaphysical theory that actually believes in energy. So everything is nothing but energy, and this is very much true also, partially scientific. That what are we? ये जो matter है, everything, that is nothing but some kind of energy. So we have consumed the matter from the earth, and that energy has been used to build our body. And finally, when we will die, the body will decay, and that energy goes back to the original ecosystem. Okay, that's how the energy is being created, reformed from one shape to another. Okay, and now when you actually, they believe that the mind has some kind of energy, and when you think something about yourself, you are basically releasing some kind of energy into the universe, and the universe will reply back in the form of same energy. So if you think negative, you will be getting back the reply in the negative form of energy, and you think positive. So that is all metaphysics. Okay, that is reasoning out that there is some kind of a supernatural phenomena that is happening around you without actually believing in some god-like entity which will always be benevolent in nature. Okay, and the last one is the positive or scientific stage. When we will now be discovering the reasons for all the phenomena happening around us, and that is where science replaces the religion. So theological, metaphysical, and scientific stages. Similarly, if you remember, सुना सुना सा लग रहा होगा नाम, जेम्स जॉर्ज फ्रेजर, ये भी सुना हुआ नहीं लग रहा. So the scholar for classical evolutionism, magic, religion, and science. Okay, so these are some of the classical evolutionists or evolutionist scholar who actually explain the origin of religion and the changes that happens in stages. Okay, Tyler, Merritt, Comte, and Fraser.